warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You have to excuse me, I've been suffering from sore throat and flu for several weeks, so my voice sometimes I have to stop and cough. Emeritus Professor Tan Sri Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan as the advisor for the project as well as honorary advisor for Centris. Associate Professor Dr. Akmal Huzairi, he's over there, the chairman of the project, the Maqasid Al Shariah and SDGs panel members, as well as the editors, members of the project committee, professors and colleagues. Assalamu alaikum again. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let us begin with Al-Fatiha. Alright. I am Nur Jannah. I am your MC today. And I hope I will not get an MC tomorrow. And tomorrow is holiday anyways. So welcome to our workshop, whereby inshallah you will have opportunity to sit face to face with the experts and voice out your concerns or get directives or clues from them, inshallah. Without further ado, I would like to invite the chairman of the project, Associate Professor Dr. Akmal. He was here just now. Oh yeah, there he is. Alright, for his welcoming remarks.
Prof Faris ni apa wali ni Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'in wa la bishari sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Not that much from me except some updates. We have already sent the draft appointment letters to the Office of Director, and it is awaiting his signature. We have to take into consideration that originally there were pledges from the writers of the flagship programs, of which until now only a few have submitted. I mean, to date we have 17 chapters altogether, of which half of the articles came from the announcement, the open call that we made to those who are interested to submit their write-ups on certain projects that have been undertaken by the university before. And I said a few since it is less than 10 from the SDGs projects themselves at the moment, although that we have already reminded them a few times on the deadline. But we keep on waiting if there are late submissions from their part. But we must move on. So our workshop today is about to align with the editors, with the Ashab al-Maqasid, with the thoughts on Maqasid. That is why we have our Tan Sri Prof. Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan with us, and the rest. We have with us as well Dr. Prof. Rusfa from IUM Press, and our editor, Professor Dr. Rashid Morton, who will assist us in advising whatever the concerns from the writers. So we are planning to have the workshop and also Q&A question with Professor Muhammad Kamal Hassan, in case that you have any concerns regarding the concept of Maqasid and how to go about it. And the rest, the arrangements of the tables, I mean, you have already been informed about it. There are tables which are seated by our editors and by those who are writing the chapters on Maqasid, of which I think two of our professors are on their way here, Prof. Masawi and also Prof. Walid. So we are planning to have this one as an alignment to what we have already written, because the concepts need to be there. The most important thing is that to have in our writing the reflection of the Maqasid. I mean, this we realize is one of the most challenging aspect of writing the book. Without the reflection, then perhaps the book as if that each of the chapter will stand alone, will not be reflecting whatever that was expected from the chapter itself. So that is why it is important for us to have the alignment, the concept of maqasid, and also with the formal editing or the formal format, I would say, with IUM Press, so that we don't have to do our work repeatedly afterwards. I mean, that is why the experts are here for us to consult with, to seek their advice from, inshallah. As I mentioned to you, I mean, the appointment letters, we have to be selective, because originally there were names submitted to us, but only half of them submitted the articles. So we have to again make sure that the appointment letters are issued to those who have already submitted. That's one thing. And it comes with, of course, honorarium. It was approved. I mean, unfortunately, it was approved half of the budget that we applied initially. One third, was it? Okay, 1/3 of the budget, but the money is still there. So rest assured, somehow that inshallah, I mean, we will be compensated. I mean, if not, okay. So that's the thing. So we hope that we can discuss, we can really benefit from this seminar. Feel free to communicate, to ask questions, because I would say that although that we are on track, but we feel that time is not with us, because we are pushing for the first draft to be ready by October. So we have like September, we have to pull as many strings as we can to make sure that by October we will have our first draft. So that's all from me. Dr. Jannah will brief you on the conduct of the seminar, and we will later on begin, inshallah, as soon as possible. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Just a short briefing, inshallah, from me. All of you have been given the itinerary, with a little number there. The names of the panel stations, the workshop panel stations, and the logistics. I will explain to you, inshallah, very quickly. So according to the itinerary, we will have Prof. Kamal Hassan speak right after this, inshallah, for about an hour. And then we will have the consultations with the panel experts. Alright, now when you receive your paper, you all have this number. This number is actually referring to the table that you should be seated. We have labeled the tables according to this number, so you should be seated at this table, but it's okay, you can move later on if you're not seated at the right place. So there are six different tags comprising of A11, A12, A21, and so on and so forth, according to the theme of your chapter. The themes of the chapter are community and special needs education for A11, and then indigenous communities and conservation, that's A12, finance, A21, farming and green initiatives, A22, humanitarian outreach, A31, and IIUM practices, A32. So these are actually corresponding to the movement later on when we have the workshop. And when you have this workshop, you are allowed to have 30 minutes consultation with the panel. So if you are at the Maqasid station, then you will have 30 minutes to consult the experts there. After 25 minutes, the first bell will be rung, and then after 30 minutes, twice ringing of the bell, and then we have to move according to the logistics given here at the back of this sheet. We have 6 stations, but basically 2 of the same kind for each. So we have here the first one, Maqasid Shariah station, and then SDG station, and then editors station back there. So inshallah later on, once the workshop starts, I would like to request our panel of experts to move at your respective tables. And Dr. Rusfa would be together with, inshallah, Dr. Mahmudul Hassan, inshallah, at the editor's table. All right, I hope that is clear. If there's any question, we can, raise it up during the workshop itself. And without further ado, I would like to invite our beloved Prof. Kamal Hassan to give us the address that is very important to situate ourselves correctly in our task, inshallah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Dr. Nurjana, my dear colleagues, sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's by His grace and mercy that I'm able to be here this afternoon and to meet my dear colleagues, and also, inshallah, to be involved in this very important project of the university. I must thank the rector for coming. With this idea of a book which would document, in a way, our success over the years in the mission of Islamization, relevantization, and triple I's in the university for the last several years. But the rectors, our rector, brought us into contact with a very important global program which has engaged the world for the last, since at least 2015, if not earlier, with the Millennium Development Goals. But with 2015, Millennium Development Goals evolved into Sustainable Development Goals, which brought more than 160 nations to agree on this common strategy to face the global crisis, the economic crisis, political crisis, and of course the environmental crisis. By bringing the two together, the Maqasid Al Shariah discourse with the SDG discourse, in fact, he is bringing us onto a global platform. We used to play in our kampong backyards. We used to play small games in our own backyards. But he brought us out of our backyards onto the global platform and engage the rest of the world on a common problem facing the world. And that common problem, as I said, is the world is in crisis. And nations have to be prepared to overcome the crisis in a concerted effort. But if you follow the literature or the discourse on SDG, you'll find that the Pope has been given a very special place with his encyclical being highlighted along with the speech of the Secretary General of the United Nations. So in a way, Catholicism has a big voice in this endeavor, but Islam, which is bigger than Catholicism in the world, has been marginalized. But IIUM now being drawn into this engagement, this intellectual engagement with the narrative of SDG, is now forced to open up our Islamization mission to address the global problem. So this is a great opportunity for us to be playing a global role in a meaningful way. But one thing I should say is that Maqasid Al Shariah precedes SDG discourse by, well, I don't know, maybe more than 100 years. If you take Ibn Ashur as the real contemporary scholar who articulated Maqasid Al Shariah in a very systematic way in his Al-Maqasid Al Shariah Islamiyah. But if you take the idea back to the originator, which is Al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, Al-Juwayni, and later on Al-Shatibi in his Al-Muwafaqat, took up this idea, then you can see that the genius of the Muslim scholars preceded the genius of United Nations scholars by several centuries. Al-Ghazali died in 1111, that is in the 12th century, and already he thought that the Sharia is not simply just rules and regulations, laws and norms, but in fact the Sharia is God's way of guiding mankind, providing them with what they need to serve their maslahah and to avoid the mafsada. Things which can do harm to mankind will have to be avoided, and things which can bring benefit for mankind, maslahah, must be promoted. So the Sharia is basically to convey or to assist mankind to fulfill the maslahah, the public good, the common interest and welfare and well-being of the whole of mankind, in fact the whole of the creation of God. So the Sharia is rahmatan lil alameen. It is a mercy to all the worlds, and not just the world of humanity, but the world of the animal world and the plant world and so on. But then the Maqasid literature was drowned for a while during the colonial period, and then after the colonial period, then the concept of development came into being. All countries were busy learning how to develop, but then development according to the pattern of the West, according to the Western model. And that development at that time meant actually economic development. Then they thought of going beyond economic development and became social development. And then finally they decided on human development, thanks to some of the Indian Pakistani thinkers. What's his name, Sheikh? No, Umar Chapra, this economist. No, Khurshid is Islamic. We're talking about human development with the Human Development Index and all that. Mahbub al-Haq. Jazakumullah. Mahbub al-Haq. Mahbub al-Haq and the other also. So they were actually the Indian scholars who brought this idea of more holistic conception of development. Otherwise, the West was sort of stuck and quite happy with economic development. But human development was not enough, and then somehow or other in 2000, somebody thought of, or even earlier in the Brandt Commission, I think 87, then they talked of sustainable development. So then sustainability was defined by the Brandt Commission as a development which meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. That has been the standard sort of definition of sustainability. And of course there are other definitions being developed later on, but you can see that sustainability as defined either by the Brandt Commission and later on by United Nations with Millennium Development Goals in 2001, I think, and then up to 2015, then they found that those 8 goals were not yet fulfilled, but they decided to go beyond Millennium Goals and adopted 17 more comprehensive goals, which involve a lot of people, a lot of experts, and the whole world community involved in it to come up with the 17 goals of sustainable development in 2015, followed by the Paris Agreement. Malaysia is one of those who's endorsed, and Malaysia has included the goals in the 12th Malaysia Plan. Indonesia has also adopted it, Arab countries adopted, and so you find that the whole world now is talking SDG. Of course, the good thing about SDG is not binding. So in other words, nations have their own ways of going about, and we have our own way of looking at it, and Muslim countries certainly would like to maybe expand or amend the concept of sustainability. And I think that amendment, or modification is provided to us by the Maqasid Al Shariah discourse, or Maqasid Al Shariah narrative, which has been around for the last 200 years or more. So going back to the Maqasid is very important for us, because not only because of the crisis in the world, but because we have also the mutatarrifun, the extremists among the Muslims, who talked of implementation of the Sharia by force. Now you have it manifested in the Al-Qaeda, in ISIS, ISI, and so on, and different groups in Indonesia. You have all kinds of extremist radical groups. So talking about Maqasid will make people aware that the way to implement the Sharia is not by force, not by violence, but by engaging the minds of the people to appreciate the Maqasid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maqasid Sahib Al Shariah. What is the ultimate goal or objectives of Allah Himself, but presented in a rational way. Okay, so the revitalization, the ihya of Maqasid Al Shariah is very, very important for us. All right, now what I am going to share with you, just a few things. Let me see, well, on the gratitude part, I thank the university, in particular the rector, for not only bringing me back, but also bringing the Maqasid to engage the SDGs. Then, expectations. I expect, of course, this was a premier lecture for the Revealed Knowledge and Kuliah, the Kuliah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences. So I was addressing the Kuliah in particular. What I expect from the Kuliah. What I expect, in short, is this. The Kuliah is divided basically into 2 divisions. Revealed Knowledge Sciences, and then you have the Human Sciences and the Social Sciences. Now, I would like them to, the Revealed Knowledge people, to consider themselves as ulama al-nas, and then the social science and humanities to be considered as ulama al-waqi'. Now, ulama al-nas and ulama al-waqi' must work together in this world. So we cannot be living in our own silos, quite comfortable with our own specializations, and whether you're relevant or not doesn't matter, as long as you have a job in the university and maybe get promoted also after you fulfill the KPIs. I personally could not fulfill the KPIs, that's why I had to leave the university. So that was my message to them. Look, there is this crisis of the world out there. The world is crying out. Planet Earth is in pain and would like to get the remedy, the medicine from the Muslims. What are you doing? You just keep reading the yellow books and be an expert in the yellow books, having read it 10 times and can remember every word in it, but none of it is applied to the actual problems facing the world. Not even the issue of cleanliness. How clean are our cities as compared to Japan, Tokyo, Kyoto, and so on? How disciplined are our people compared to the Japanese in the time of crisis when there was this tsunami? There were, of course, several supermarkets, but in Muslim countries, African countries, Asian countries, or other, then they would have ransacked the supermarkets. But the Japanese just lined up, queuing up, and none of these supermarkets were ransacked. So where did this discipline come on? Where did this cleanliness come on? When we had all these lessons and messages of the Quran and Islam being taught to us from small. So we cannot be living in the yellow books. We have to go green, as they say today. So everybody is going green. We have been green all along, except we forgot that we had green with us. So we preferred to be yellow, we preferred to be red, and finally we ended up being black instead of being green. Being black meaning burnt up. Green is, adopting all that which is healthy and useful. So I would like the people to now, if I use this to extend to the university as a whole, then you do have people, ulama al-nas. These are the scholars of religious texts or scholars of religious studies, on the one hand. Then you have ulama al-waqi', engineering, sciences, medicine, social sciences. These are the scholars who study the world, who study the society in the social sciences, and who study the world of matter with the hard sciences. And these are the experts of worldly matters. Okay, another 5 minutes. So they should come together. And of course, this is not my idea. I am borrowing this idea from Sheikh Taha Jabir, who talked a long time ago about the necessity al-jam'u bayna al-qira'atayn. That is, you need to combine together the reading of the two books of God. There is the book of Al-Quran and the book of Al-Kawn, of the cosmos. The cosmos is a book that must be read by the Muslims, but the Westerners read the cosmos, we read the yellow books. Now, so we have to bring the two together, and then we will be able to provide fresh, innovative solutions, creative solutions to the problems facing the world today. All right, I have a few more minutes, and I will go very quickly. We expect our new leaders to come from IIUM, inshallah, with the Amanah and so on, because we have corrupt leaders, and Malaysia has also produced very corrupt leaders. Then, so you have that scholars of religious texts, the cosmos, we need to read the two books, Al-Jam'u Bayna al-Qira'atayn, and the New Horizons. So I consider these new horizons. We are now, alhamdulillah, being exposed to the new horizons. That is how we bring reveal knowledge, disciplines to solve the problems of the world, and also how we bring the social science knowledge also to bring solutions to the world problems. Of course, we have our worldview. So sustainability to Earth and success, prosperity, victory, life, knowledge, disaster. From our point, from the worldview of the Quran, the transcendent dimension is never missing. In fact, the transcendent is very, very crucial. Without the transcendent dimension of sustainability or success or prosperity, then you get only part of the truth, not the whole truth. So sustainable development must involve the transcendent dimension, the spiritual, and also the eschatological, the ukhrawi dimensions. And that is something that we can do. And so we enrich the narrative of SDG with our transcendent, spiritual, moral, and ethical perspectives from the Quran and the Sunnah. Even life and death means different thing to us. Someone who is dead, died in the path of God, is not really not dead. بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون. They are alive. But, well, other people may think they are dead, but they are alive. So life and death has a different meaning from our perspective. And success is al-falah, and loss is al-khusran. And these have different conceptions from the secular perspective, which is dominant in the United Nations bodies. So it's also a form of da'wah. This is God-given opportunity, and so on. And so we need green environment, yes, but green with akhirah. Yes, we want to be green, but don't forget akhirah. That makes a difference. Iman billah wal yawm al-akhir. And whoever wants is looking for iman billah, so whoever wants to meet Allah, then you must have this belief in Allah and the last day. So two fundamental beliefs must be brought into the discourse, into the narrative. And I think you have done it in your drafts. I think you have done it. So that's what we are supposed to do. So that is a value-added dimension to the discourse. And again, the irony. This is my last point now. That how can you talk about sustainability when you forget the sustainer? All right? Who sustains the whole existence, not just the world, but the whole cosmos? Allah subhanahu. Even the Jahiliyyah Arabs would say Allah. La yaqulun Allah. When asked about who created all this, they would say Allah. Except that they put other gods in between him. That was their big mistake, and for that they considered mushrikun and also kafirun. But today, you talk about sustainability, but never refer to the sustainer at all. The world does not belong to us. We're all concerned about planet Earth, but this planet Earth has an owner, Rabb al-Ard. So we have to bring that in also, inshallah. But we have to do it in a sophisticated, intellectual way, so that our non-Muslim brothers and sisters can appreciate and own the Islamic discourse as a discourse of humanity. So with that, I will end, and thank you very much for your patience, and also for being forced to listen to this old man struggling. Okay, so now it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Bob. You can sit there, and then we can have 20 minutes of Q&A. Yes, 20 minutes of Q&A, inshallah. Dr. Akmal, can you accompany Bob and sit there with him?
Sit where?
Okay.
Oh, it's here.
We don't want you to stand and answer the questions.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you. All right.
So the first question, anyone? No question? If no question, I can allow him to speak more.
No. I have spoken enough.
Any question? Yes, Dr. Zainab. Oh, microphone.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Tan Sri, thank you so much for the sharing perspective on this policy of SDG. We have seen several SDG projects, the flagship projects, and we have engaged several of them in several sessions as well. So there are several questions that come out when we try to push for the link between the applications of the Maqasid Shariah and the SDG. This is something that not being much done before. So meaning it is still struggling what's the best way of doing that. One of the questions that was raised is that beyond connecting between one project to Maqasid number 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and then SDG 1 to 17, there must be an interesting way of how we provide the narrations between the two components. So what my question is that how do we do that when you say that the linking between SDG and Maqasid provide that horizons of possibility of expanding the discourse on Maqasid Shariah? What kind of guideline for us so that it will help us in putting together the chapter that we are writing?
Would you like to respond to this one?
Correct.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Tasrif, for your very educative.
Please use the word Prof. Kamal.
Prof.
Ansari does not exist.
Yeah. Tasrif, Prof. Kamal. Prof. Kamal. Sorry. I think I just want to add to what Dr. Zainab mentioned. What actually some issue raised by our scholar is, can we use, instead of Maqasid and SDG, can we use what you mentioned here, Tawhidic perspective? Because Maqasid Shariah, as what they mentioned, Maqasid Shariah can be under the line of Maqasid, and what you also mentioned at the end of your talk, sustainable. When we talk about sustainable development, we maybe to a certain extent we marginalize, or we didn't talk about the sustainable. How can we respond to it? Thank you.
Maybe another question. Okay, Prof, maybe you can respond. Oh, another question, Prof. Wali.
Oh, okay. My voice is quite don't need to say. Thank you, Prof. Kamal, for this and also for organizing this session. I would like to also extend one of the questions is how Maqasid Sharia actually can improve the SDG, because I think we have a room for improvement and critique, and also we can expand this concept to a better level.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof, and thank you all. Dr. Zainal and our brother, what's your name? Dr. Habib, yeah, for question. But never use that TS for me, yeah? Okay. All right. For Dr. Zainal, how do we go about, what are the guidelines for us to link Maqasid with SDGs? Well, of course, this is not perhaps the best answer. Maybe Prof. Dr. Abdul Aziz Barhoud and Dr. Misawi could provide you the right answers, because they are the experts on the subject. Now, first of all, as I said just now, al-waqi' and al-nas must be connected. All right. Maqasid is based on al-nas. From the nusus Qur'aniyya, the ulama derive the maqasid through the ijtihad, and it is stated that this shows the abqariyya of the mind of Islamic scholars. The genius of Islamic scholars is to derive this, to deduce maqasid from the nusus of Al-Quran. So nas on the one hand, SDG is referring to the realities. The social realities, the economic realities, the ecological realities, those three dimensions. Of course, you can add other dimensions to it. There are more than 3 dimensions from our perspective, but they talk of basically 3. So we have to understand all that. So show them the statistics, so there should be people who will look at this. If not, don't look at the situation of the Western countries. Look at the Muslim countries. There's 57 Muslim countries in the world. Look at the situation, the economic situation, the health situation, the agricultural situation, the food situation, job situation. So you need data. You need data on the social, on the national problems of a Muslim country, country by country. Dr. Abdulaziz can bring in the data about Algeria. Dr. Walid can bring in data about Egypt. So we need to work first with hard facts, data. And our people in the religious division not quite used to hard data. So that's one thing we can benefit from the social sciences and from the hard sciences. Because the hard sciences deal with only hard data. But the good thing about data is that according to Ismail Faruqi, the revelation is also data. All right, so there is a Quranic data, and there is also the non-Quranic data. So we have to work with that, because many of the people in the revealed knowledge are not quite aware of the social problems in their own countries. Take myself, for instance. I'm from Kelantan. What do I know about the case of now the crisis of drug addiction in Kelantan? And yesterday in Ilim, I was told by one officer who works in the prison, there are so many Malay women in prison in Kajang, and who are they? They are drug addicts. So I thought it's only the bad boys who became drug addicts. In actual fact, in reality, you have so many women, Malay women, who are drug addicts. And Kelantan is also one of the countries with the highest number of drug addicts. So that's just one issue, one aspect of social ill. So how do we solve it? Then we have to look at the economic causes of these problems. We have to look at the social causes of this problem, the educational causes of these problems, and the psychological, the psyche causes, the roots of this problem. Then you can come up with a therapy from the Quran, the Sunnah, and also the Dua and all that. But you have to come up, you become realistic. So how, one of the issues, Dr. Zainal, is how do the mithaliyun become waqi'iyun? How do you make the idealists into realists? That is one challenge. Because we in the religious sciences are full of ideals, but we are not quite aware of the realities on the ground. So Kelantan is known to be Serabi Mekah, very religious people, but even the religious people are not aware of what's going on in the backyard of Kelantan, which is just bordering Thailand. So all kinds of bad things from Thailand, you just go into Kelantan and influence the youth. Why do Kelantanese move away from Kelantan? Is it the pull factor or is it the push factor? Why cannot Kelantan absorb the talent of the young Kelantanese? So these are real problems, but the SDG addresses bigger problems, right? Much, much bigger problems. Hunger, poverty in the world, and then hunger, which is going to be worse with the environmental, ecological degradation, catastrophes, turbulence, and the turmoil that we can expect in the next decade or so. What more with global warming, raising the temperature and causing the extinction of species, and also maybe also the lacking of water, which will cause also food production to really go down, and then people will be hungry and so on. How does hunger affect crime and so on? So these are all interrelated. The 17 goals are all interrelated goals. And so the other thing is, it will the revealed knowledge people, people of religious sciences, must understand the interlinkages between societal problems, and not just look at law as a legal problem. So you bring in fiqh to look at the legal problems. You forget the sociological undercurrents of crime. You forget the psychological factors which led to crime, or the educational factors leading to crime. So, one of the things is our religious scholars must be shown the hard data. That's number one. Number two, then they have to know the relevance of the ayat of Al-Quran and the relevance of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and the relevance of the turath of the ulama of the past to the present problem. That is why I have always emphasized relevancy of revealed knowledge perspectives and ideas, not Islamicity of the ideas, because the Islamicity is already taken care of, because the epistemology of revealed knowledge is tawhidic, not secular, not humanistic, not materialistic, not naturalistic, not positivistic. These are all problems of the social sciences. The epistemological foundations of the social sciences are a problem, but revealed knowledge is not a problem. The problem with the revealed knowledge is how to make their knowledge relevant as problem solvers to the contemporary situation. That is my response. But of course, as I said, you get it from our experts here for the correct answers. Now, number two, brother, what's his name? Habib. Yeah. Brother Habib. With the SDGs do not refer to the real sustainer. Rabb al-Alamin is not referred to. Just like science is a study of the, natural science is a study of the science of God. But God is left out of the study from the very beginning. So is the sustainer left out? Yes, if you follow the secular-oriented SDGs, they're left out. That is why the wisdom in bringing in the Maqasid. Because the Maqasid shows the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Al-Hakim. So then you will see the will of Al-Hakim, the will of God, the will of the sustainer, that this ard is given to you, and not just ard, everything in the universe, musakhar lakum, musakhar linnas, is made subservient to human needs, right? But you have to be, after utilizing the so-called resources, the natural resources, then you have to be thankful to God. So the concept of shukr is very fundamental. Because with shukr, you get more. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. So if you are grateful to Allah, He will give you more of water, of air, of peace, of tranquility, of stability. The tangible and the intangible goods, public goods, will be there. If there is this attitude of gratitude to the Almighty, to the one who gives you rizq and azraq, fil ard wa fis sama, not just fil ard, but also fis sama. You get the rizq from the sky, and of course you can get from the sky water. Now, of course, solar energy is being utilized for free. God is giving it free. But you are never grateful to Him, right? Not only you are not grateful, but at one time you want to conquer His garden. You talk about conquest of nature. Now SDG people are talking about be friendly to nature, be eco-friendly. So there's a new language developing, a new narrative. instead of conquering nature, which was the Western hegemonic instinct, now it is the more humble feeling of nature should be treated nicely, not because you really respect what God has given, but because you are so dependent upon nature, right? And but a time will come when modern science, contemporary science, will be able to come up with everything artificial, fish. Now they're working on artificial meat, right? A time will come when they have everything artificial, then they will not be grateful anymore to nature, all right? So, but as Maqasid must bring in the concept of gratefulness to the provider, to the sustainer, all right? So in a way, people in SDGs should be thankful to the Muslims, to IIUM, because now your book is going to be one of the literature that is going to be exposed to the United Nations, the elites of United Nations. So that is something good. The last question, Prof. Walid, actually this is already answered. How would Maqasid Al Shariah improve the SDGs? So not just critiquing, which is of course very easy. We can critique SDGs quite easily because of the absence of the transcendent dimension. Also the absence of the ethical and the moral and the spiritual. So you look at, and also it's even not critiquing the unjust regimes in the world. There's no word, you cannot find kleptocracy there. Although now the Malaysians are now being exposed to another form of crime by leaders, which is kleptocracy, right? But SDGs does not touch the tyrants, the kleptocrats, and maybe I do not know if they even criticize capitalism. But a lot of the problems in the world today comes from capitalism or global capitalism, heartless capitalism. So another thing that Maqasid will bring in, the spiritual dimension, and then the dimension of the qalb dimension. And this is where Dr. Zainal and of course our rector has also been talking for the last 5 years or so about qalb-based leadership. And this is a common ground between Islam and all the other religions. As far as I know, the major religions have gives a great value to heart. So here we have a common ground that we can share with each other when we bring in the discourse about the heart. Because for Islam, the heart is the root of human personality. And behavior and actions are determined by what goes in the heart. So if the heart is cleansed, then tazkiyah, then the actions will be fine. Then crime will also be lessened if you can really bring in the message of cleanliness of the heart. So the spiritual dimension is a very important part of Maqasid Shariah, and this is certainly an improvement, or as I said, value-added perspective to the SDG. Wallahu a'lam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I suppose we can start the workshops now. Maybe Prof. Kamal can join the Maqasid table, or maybe you can freelance, Prof.
I would like to be taught by the gurus, Prof. Aziz Barghur and Prof. Tahir Misawi. These are the gurus. So I would like to be with them.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Prof. That was really indeed insightful. So I will follow that clock, inshallah. Yeah, so our workshop will start in a few minutes. So let me just make a little bit more of briefing. Hopefully all the authors are seated at their correct tables according to the table number, which should match your number that has been given. And then the panels, I hope the panels can be seated at your correct table. So table 1-1, Prof. Walid would be there, as well as Prof. Abdulaziz Barghur. Yeah. And then table 1, 2, Prof. Tahir Mesawi, as well as Dr. Mekwok, but she cannot make it today, so Prof. Kamal is there, alhamdulillah. For the SDG station, table 2, 1, Dr. Zainal is there, and Dr. Luqman, is he here? He's not. Okay. And then table 2, 2, we have Dr. Daniel. Is he there? No. And Brother Muhaydin. Yeah, okay. And then the editors, we have Prof. Abdul Rashid Motin at table 3, 1. Prof. Rashid, you are at table 3, 1, yeah? Thank you. And then at table 3, 2, we have Dr. Mahmudul Hassan and Prof. Usfa. If you could join Dr. Mahmudul Hassan in that table, on that table, by that table, yeah? Table 3, 2. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. So Sister Nuha there would be guarding the time. At the 25th minute, the bell will ring once. At 30 minutes, the bell will ring twice, for which you have to move to the next station according to the logistics. Alright, so inshallah we can start already your consultation with the respective panels.
Belum ada dah betul. Daniel betul ke tak? Daniel kat sana.